Hey Masters, if you know me and you've been listening to my podcast, you know health and nutrition is number one. Check out Advocare products. I am a distributor. Go to livelongersmarter.com. We got everything you could imagine for your health and nutrition goals. If you're interested, at the end of the podcast, at the very end, there'll be more information on the products. Also, Land Voice is one of our sponsors. They have amazing services. If you need leads, please check out Land Voice for FSBO, expired, circle prospecting, a dialer, whatever you need. Go to davidihill.com. Affiliates, you can click the Land Voice link and all of the special opportunities will be there.
Get ready for one more sale, inspiring you with ideas through powerful and engaging interviews with top performers of their field. Now, join us as we discuss techniques and strategies of the coolest and most successful people on the planet.
Too many people, when they have a failure or a perceived failure, they live in the past. They live in the past. Oh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. That doesn't help you tomorrow. So you know what? Lose money, fail, whatever. Get up, dust yourself off, and go back at it again. It's amazing to me in 2017 when I get people on the phone, I go, hey, what are your goals? And there's this weird number. There's two very strange numbers that people focus on. The first number is, I want to make $100,000 a year. 100 grand? 100 grand? I commonly make 100 grand a month, right? And people can't get their heads around that. So the first one is 100 grand, which is too low. And the second one is $1 million, which is also too low. $1 million is not as much as you think it is.
Hey Masters, it's David Hill here with another episode for you of Path to Mastery. And you know what we do? We go out, we find you the coolest, most successful, most inspiring real estate agents, rock stars, authors, speakers. And this week we have a podcast host, and his name's Toby Salgado, and he has actually, from what I understand, probably the most downloaded podcast out there. And guys, he's awesome. I look up to him. I mean, I think he does a phenomenal job, and he'll tell you he's like one of those guys, you either love him or you hate him. There's like that no in between. Honestly, like I said, I respect him. I think he does a really great job out there, and it was a fun interview. I'm going to be honest, I was all over the place with it. I went into it, I just assumed he was in real estate. I found out he wasn't in real estate. But we just have a really great interview on mindset and what it takes to be successful. It's just an awesome interview. It's got a lot of really, really good nuggets. I'll tell you, it's maybe not one of my strongest interviews, but again, the content is there, and I just really want to get out there for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. And listen, we're coming into April, first week. I know a lot of us are going to start looking at getting in shape for the spring, maybe getting our abs in order, whatever it is. Guys, remember, Advocare products are phenomenal. They've been around 25 years. I'm an advisor, distributor. I would love to talk to you about your health and nutrition goals. And, check us out at livelongersmarter.com, or just simply send me an email, man. Call me. I just had a great conversation with a kid from Chicago, and he ordered some products. And, so just reach out to me, man. Reach out to me through Facebook, my blog. Whatever, email me. So anyway, listen, you guys rock. I hope you really enjoy this interview. And please remember, we are in real estate, Central Massachusetts. If you know anybody, center of the state, we'd love to help you. Take great care of your clients. You rock. Have an awesome, phenomenal rest of your day, and enjoy Toby. Hey Masters, it's David Hill here with another episode of Path to Mastery. And hey, I'm bringing you guys a special treat this week. I've got, some of you may have heard of him. His name's Toby Salgado, and he's got a really awesome podcast. It's called Agents. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name of your podcast now. Toby,
Super Agents Live.
Super Agents Live. How the heck did I do that? Yeah, and it's awesome, and I listened to all his episodes. And Toby, hey, well, first off, thanks for joining us today.
David, absolutely.
Thank you, my friend. And yeah, and Toby's podcast is just similar to what I do. You interview top real estate agents, real estate trainers, people that are involved in the real estate industry. And I know you had some involvement as well. in the real estate industry, and now you just kind of talk to the rock stars. So I'm inspired by your podcast. I listen to your episodes, and I know you're also involved in radio, and you have at least 2 books that I'm aware of, right? You have a book called How to Sell, and then there's another book on radio. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. And our good friend, a common mutual friend, Pat Hyben, had interviewed him about 6 months ago, and he had mentioned your podcast, and I've been listening to it ever since. And Pat is super influential, and I appreciate him connecting us, and appreciate you spending some time with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
All right, so first off, why don't we just get a quick, you can tell us kind of like how you got started in the real estate realm and also in the podcast realm.
Sure. Well, my background is I'm a serial entrepreneur. And since, going back all the way to 98, I've founded 6 different companies in 4 different industries. My last thing really was, here's the thing. With all my companies, they've all been built on a market environment situation. I'll give you a quick example. So I went from high tech in 98 when everybody was getting rich off the internet, and we started to raise $7 million venture capital, started a company, didn't work. We were actually we were too early to market. We were called Work Exchange, and we were fundamentally what Elance is today, or Upwork now. Too early, didn't work. I came from the Valley back to my town of San Diego, and through a friend, right, I commonly say on the show, your net worth is your network. When I was thinking about doing something different, I tapped into my network, and somebody I knew said, hey, Toby, there's all these laws around the Clean Water Act that the city of San Diego has been doing nothing about. They've not been enforcing them. And we as a city are going to start enforcing them, right now. So I'm like, dude, I don't want to go low tech. But I spent 2 weeks, looked at that opportunity, quickly realized there wasn't a business there, and started a company and grew that from, me in my garage to, 58 people and making about $1 million a year. Again, that was great, except that once that environment or that new law, once that changed, once that market shifted, the whole business crumbled. And my whole career has been based on that. And another quick example is, and I'm going to answer your question in a second, David. We obviously all know what happened in 08. And in 09, banks were not lending money. Even though there were companies out there with revenues and assets, they couldn't get cash to grow. And we all know that cash is the catalyst for growth, right? So I quickly raised a $10 million fund, and we started doing bridge loans. Dude, I was flipping $10 million loans for short-term 30-day increments, and we were collecting 6% a month. It was insane, right? But that couldn't last forever. That lasted for about 12 months, and then when the banks came back online, that business went away. So I realized, man, even though I made a ton of money doing the stuff that I'm doing, I'm like, I can't keep doing this, right? I cannot keep finding new opportunities, exploiting them, and then having them go away. So I sat back and said, listen, I want to build something for the long term. And it just so happened that this is in 2011. I saw the rise of podcasting. I saw the rise of us as individuals being able to actually own a platform instead of right now, everybody else except for you and I, right? Everybody is leveraging other people's platforms, a la Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. And that's great. But the problem is those people can change the rules on you at any time, right? Google AdWords used to be good. It was cheap at work. Now it's crazy expensive. Same thing with Facebook ads today, right? What is working today on those platforms will not work 12 months from now. So I knew I needed to own my own platform. And I kind of compared the notion of podcasting to what we saw with blogging a long time ago, right? Those people, those early bloggers made millions and millions of dollars because they were first to market. So in 2013, I launched Super Agents Live. We were the first group to actually do what we do, and that's interview top producing agents, figure out, what makes them tick, figure out what challenges they had, how they conquered those challenges to build a good and lasting business. And, on top of my podcast, so basically my podcast is just the top line, the top piece of our sales funnel, right? I get people into our.
So let me, Joe, it sounds like you've been adapting to whatever's going on in the market for years. And then in 2012, 2013, you saw the podcast world was coming alive and you wanted to create a podcast for the real estate world. Is that what I'm getting?
That's exactly right. But
okay.
Most importantly, on top of that, David, I knew I needed to own my own platform. And this is a super easy way to own your own platform. I control my traffic, whereas, again, most people are leveraging other people's platform. That's super important.
Okay, so own your own platform, controlling your traffic. So what ultimately does that do for you, Toby?
Well, again, so my show, my podcast is the top part of our sales funnel. So people from all over the globe find out about me. I give away fantastic free content.
Got it. Okay.
And then I get them into, I go, okay, you want to build your business? Great. We put agents on the radio and television for listing leads. We have a podcast production company. We believe everybody should own their own platform, have a podcast to build new relationships, mine your database. And then we have other services. I won't.
So I want to compliment you on that because, as many times as I've listened to your podcast, and I just think that you're coming from a place of interviewing top agents. I honestly thought you sold real estate, believe it or not. I would have never known it was just kind of a funnel, which is brilliant, my friend. I know you've talked about radio a few times here and there, but I looked at it more as an informational podcast that is interviewing top agents. And another thing I want to say about your podcast is, what I love about your show, my friend, is your authenticity. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I remember an episode, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, maybe a couple months, you were talking to somebody, and in the middle of the show, the guy got disconnected, the phone hung up, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You're like, wait, you're calling him back. And in the podcast world, I mean, so many people would be like, oh my God, this is like a crisis. I'd have to edit that out. And I mean, you just go with it, man. And that's what I love about your show.
Thanks. I mean, I think authenticity is crazy important, and I think there's a lack of it. When you try to please everybody, you please nobody. And I think if we look at the political climate right now, with however you view Donald Trump, one thing you can say about Donald Trump is the guy's authentic, and that's why I think people love the guy. They're like, hey, you know what? I don't know if he's going to be the right guy to lead our nation, but I know what I'm getting. Right? It's not unlike a Hillary, right, who has a public persona and then a private one. So I think finding us, all of us individually, if we can find our own authenticity, tap into it, and then throw that out there. I make a lot of people angry with things I say. I get angry emails all the time. Well, that's fine, man. I love haters. That means I am, my authentic self. And I'm not going to, not everybody's going to like me, but the people who do like me love me.
That's what I'm saying. And that was the other thing I was going to say, and is the fact that, sometimes, you'll have guests on and they say things and you'll question them. You know what I mean? Do you really want to dig deep on that? And I just love that. And I think sometimes I've heard interviews where you've actually expanded, I think, the guest's thinking, literally, it seemed like, okay, you expanded what they were actually saying. So I want to congratulate you on that.
Thanks, babe.
When did you, and I'll share my, this is my, I don't know, I'd probably say this is my 60th interview. I started in January of last year. So I remember in the beginning, man, I was worried about everything I was going to say. I'd have my editor cut out the ums, the ahs, all these little things that are just don't even matter in the real world, right?
Right.
When did you get to a place where you're just like, hey, just let's go with the flow, and I want to be authentic, and I'm just going all in? How did that happen for you? Tell us about that.
Well, I think I've always sort of been like that, but I can remember the episode. It was very, very early. It was probably, I want to say maybe number 15 in. And, my first, 15 or 20 episodes, I had a list of questions, and I would cycle through the different questions based on what the guest was saying. And what I would do is, prior to having somebody on the show, I would send them the questions. I'd say, hey, listen, these are some of the things we're going to cover. Now, I had Mike Ferry scheduled for the show. And
brilliant interview, my friend. That was, I'll tell you, brilliant interview with Mike.
And that was the first one where I just went rogue, because I got him on the phone. I sent him the questions and his team the questions. And literally, Mike starts out with, hey, Toby, I got your questions. He's like, would you agree that these questions are built more toward an actual agent? And I didn't agree with him, but I said, okay. I said, sure. I guess I kind of agree. So he said, hey, that's not me, so let's throw those questions out. So I was like, okay, threw them out. And that interview was just off the cuff. And ever since then, everything I do is completely off the cuff. I don't research anybody. People get on my show, I don't know who they are, I don't know what they do. Before I even start recording, I go, look, let's start here. Give me your team size, production, and then I just go from there. That's it. So yeah, it was pretty early on. I think I went just all in.
I couldn't agree with what you said. I mean, I remember in the beginning too, I had my list of questions and I'd stick to the questions, and then, if it didn't go right, sometimes I'd get thrown off track. And then when you get to a place where you're just comfortable and you're just having a conversation and you're going with the flow, I think ultimately it's a better experience, not just for the guests, for myself, but for the listeners. And ultimately that's what it's all about, is the listeners.
Absolutely.
And they get that sense when it's a really authentic conversation. So, I did read your bio, and we have something in common where we both have, the humble beginnings. My father was an alcoholic. Growing up, we were from the South Bronx. My father was a angry drunk. He was very abusive, so we ended up, getting away from him. But, reading that, I mean, you're massively successful, so congrats on that. But tell us, how do you break through, like, even though you came from that beginning, right? I want to talk to you about some of your successes, some of the things that you do, like for our listeners, like what are some things they can take, like regardless of where you come from, it doesn't have to determine where we go in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to us about that. Like, how did you get as successful as you are? Do you use those things from your childhood? Like, I know for me, those are some of the things I do. Like, it's given me strength, but it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that for me. A lot of times it held me back. But when you talk about that, what does that do for you?
Well, I think if I'm understanding your question right, David, I think it's this, man. I think one thing that I realized very early on is to surround myself with successful people, right? There's that relatively famous quote by Jim Rohn that says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And very early on, I leveled up in terms of who I wanted to spend time with. And I think that, that leveling up helped me to see bigger and farther than what I was exposed to in my family life, right? So my parents weren't wealthy, of course. So, not wealthy people do what? They hang out with not wealthy people. And not wealthy people think, a certain similar way. So I think the main thing that I learned early on, probably in high school, is to level up with the people I spend my time with.
So again, as you mentioned, it's surrounding yourself with positive people. And I think sometimes maybe not all of us are in a situation where we're able to do that. I think one of the gifts I've gotten from doing this podcast is, now I'm having a conversation with you. I've been able to connect with Pat Hyben. I just all these interviews I've done, I have people like Brian Tracy's cell phone number. You know what I mean? Chris Voss. Sure. It's just amazing to be around, Gary Keller's mastermind, all those types of things. What about the people that don't have those opportunities? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say everybody has those opportunities. Something like a Pat Hyben, dude, I travel with Pat, right? And somebody that you may not know, one of Pat's friends, David Osborne, right? David is a 49-year-old guy. His goal is to have $100 million net worth. And I won't tell you what his net worth is, but I guarantee you that dude's going to make it in the next 5 to 7 years. And so, again, David, I've been to David's house in Steamboat. I've hung out with the guy, right? We've also gone on trips. So I think that everybody has the same opportunity to level up, right? And I'll give you a great example. So another big podcaster, a girl named Jamie Tardy. Now, Jamie, she was poor. She grew up in Maine, and she always wanted to be a millionaire. But she didn't know any millionaires. There were 0 millionaires in the town she grew up in. So what did she do? She just started calling these millionaires and having conversations with them. So I think that everybody has the opportunity to level up. It's just a matter of being deliberate about it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's thinking too. Sometimes people may say they want to be a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever in their mind, like it's coming out of their mouth, but in their mind, they may not even believe that's really possible.
Oh, I think a lot of people. It's amazing to me in 2017, when I get people on the phone, I go, hey, what are your goals? And there's this weird number. There's 2 very strange numbers that people focus on. And the first number is, I want to make $100,000 a year. 100 grand. Yeah. 100 grand. Yeah. I commonly make 100 grand a month, right? And people can't get their heads around that. So the first one is 100 grand, which is too low. And the second one is $1 million, which is also too low. $1 million is not as much as you think it is.
Well, it's certainly a lot if you're not making 100 grand a month, that's for sure, or even making 100 grand a year. So that's for certain. But it starts there, Toby. Ultimately it starts there. So figuring out how do you expand on your thinking, right?
You are listening to One More Sale.
Let's talk about your podcast again, because you are interviewing massively successful people. Why should we be listening to your podcast? Or I guess, what's the essence of your podcast?
Well, so I'm 46, going to turn 47 here pretty quickly. But, I made my first million, like $1 million in the bank when I was 33, right? I made my second million when I was 35, 36. So, my thing, why should you listen to my podcast? I have people that do from 200 to 1,000 deals on the show. And I get into not only the tactics and strategies they use to get there, but also, we talk a lot about mindset, because mindset is everything. Just like you said a minute ago, right? For those people with a scarcity mindset who don't believe they have the opportunity to level up and surround themselves with successful people, that's all a mindset issue, right? Whether you say I want to make $100,000 a year or $100,000 a month, that's a mindset issue. So I get into those things. And I think that because I'm at that level, I think I have a different perspective than those people that haven't yet made that.
I want to get into some commonalities too, because of the people that you've interviewed. I mean, how many interviews now?
Like 400. I've done like 400. We have about 270 something live.
Got it. Awesome. So, and why do you think? I mean, you've talked to a lot of people now. And you're right. The common number, and I'm always, looking for talent, recruiting, building the teams. That's everybody throws that number out. Like, yeah, I want to make 100,000 next year. Like, why is that the number? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I have no idea. That number baffles me because I just go, why? Why? It's 10 grand a month. I mean, I can make that in my sleep. I mean, here's the thing, right? If anybody's hearing that and they're going, Toby, you're a jerk, I think it comes down to that's my belief. I know that. I know that I can start from dead broke today and turn out 10 grand a month in 2 or 3 months, right? I can start from nothing and do that. But it's because I believe that is the reason why I can do that, right? If you don't have that, if your mind is not clear, your mind can't envision that path. I can do it in 2 or 3 months. It might take you 2 or 3 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gary Keller says it perfect. I mean, you're not going to make $1 million unless you can think $1 million, and it starts with thinking $1 million. That's the first step. So let's talk about some commonalities on the people that you interview. I mean, you're interviewing massive. What do you see as a commonality for people that are really, really successful at that high level?
I can tell you the one thing thematically that is the same with all those people who are doing from 2 to 200 to 1,000 deals, and it's this. They set out from the beginning to build a business. There's a very strange viewpoint from real estate agents. If you look at the trades, right? The construction trades. If you are a roofer, if you're a drywall guy, if you're an electrician, and you set out to do that, to build an electric company or a plumbing company or whatever, the first thing that they have to do, they have to invest, right? They go and buy a $75,000 Ford F-250 diesel. They go spend money on equipment. They go and hire people to help. They hire a team, right? Even if it's, I'm just going to hire, if I'm a drywall guy, right? I'm just going to hire one drywall guy because I can't carry drywall, myself. So why is it the very lowbrow drywall guy can invest in their business as a business from day one, whereas the person in real estate doesn't do that. They don't invest in themselves. So thematically, the people that are doing from 200 to 1,000 deals, they started in mind, right? This goes back to mindset. They set out to build a business. And it's a difference between I'm a businessman and I'm a businessman.
Okay. Tell us, when I'm a businessman, do you mean like working on the business as opposed to in the business?
No,
tell
us.
Yeah.
So right. I'm in business, man.
Got it.
Versus I'm a businessman.
Got it. The inflection. You're right. Got it, man. Yeah, absolutely. But everything we're talking about, it comes back to mindset, right? Having the right mindset so that you're able to actually invest in your business, right?
Yep.
So what are you, let's talk about our listeners. Again, mostly real estate agents, all different levels. What's the biggest challenge? Like, why aren't people able to close 100, 200 transactions, 1,000 transactions? I mean, let's start at 100 or 200.
Let's assume that they've invested in themselves, right? And investing in yourself is going to be, right, investing in a coach. If your mind is not clear to see $1 million, you need some help, right? You need somebody to help you get there. So spend money on a coach. If you want to get to 50, 100 deals, you can just run the numbers. So it's this, right? On average, and this is from all the coaches, on average, it takes an average person it's either 83 or 87 calls. Let's say 80. It takes the average person 80 calls, and this is conversations, 80 calls/conversations to book one appointment, okay? So if we assume that you're going to close 1 out of every 3 deals, it's easy math, right? 80 times 3, you need to have 80 times 3, 80 times 3. I don't know, I can't do that in my head. You need to have 240 conversations to close 1 deal or to put 1 listing on the board. Now, if you do the math and you go run it to 200, I'm not going to run out this math, but you cannot physically have that many conversations. So what do? You have to invest in marketing/advertising. Why don't people do it? I don't know. I mean, that's why we have a radio service. We put people on the radio. You pay, we get you on the radio, and then you get listing calls. Why don't people invest in that? I think, is it mindset? Do they have a scarcity mindset? I'm not sure. But that's what you need to do. You need to build your business just like Coca-Cola, Warner Brothers, everybody builds their businesses. Because at the end of the day, you and I are competing against the ad budgets of Warner Brothers and Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson. Everybody is vying for the consumer. Everybody's vying for that finite thing, which is consumer attention. You and I and everybody else, again, we are on the same playing field, vying for that same finite amount of attention from everybody as all those big brands. So if you want to get there, you got to act like a big brand. You got to do what those big brands do. And what do? It's all about buying media.
So yeah, and I think everything we've talked about again is coming back to just being able to think a little bit bigger. I mean, for somebody to invest $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a month, it could be very challenging if they're not making the money to do that, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. So how do you? It's not even a question, but
what do people do? They go, if you don't have it, you go borrow it. I just listened to a fantastic book. It's called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, and it's the story about Nike. The story about Nike, and he had no money early on, none. He was buying shoes from Japan in the beginning at $3 a unit, selling them for $6 a unit or pair. He had no money. He borrowed it, and the amazing thing about I recommend that book to everybody. You should listen to it.
What is it called again? Shoe Dog?
Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Got it.
The story of Nike. Literally, he was broke for the first, I want to say, almost 10 years. I mean, he had people like he had celebrity endorsements like Agassi, but dude, he was making no money. Everything he had, he just plowed it back into the business. And it wasn't, he went from literally broke. And telling the story, Nikes were on everywhere, right? I won't tell the book, but he had Nike shoes on Olympic athletes. He had celebrity endorsements, but he invested all his money back into the business and was borrowing some, and he couldn't borrow enough money. And he and every day, because he was borrowing everything and putting it back into the business. If you listen to the book, he's like, dude, today might be the day that the company goes under and I'm completely broke. But it wasn't until he went public, and he went from literally having a zero net worth personal to $140 million. From going public. But so if you don't have the cash, no problem. Act like a business, like a regular business. Go to your bank, raise some friends and family money, but you have to build your business like a business.
Got it, my friend. That makes a lot of sense. So tell us for yourself, and then I'll talk a little bit about a few more questions. And I don't know if you're on a tight schedule, so you let me know. What do you do, Toby, when times are tough, challenging? Sounds like you've been in a lot of businesses, have come, gone, other things. What do you do to keep moving forward?
Well, so that's a pretty broad question, David. But, I'll tell you my challenge is I set my goals very, very early. What I wanted to do, right? What I wanted to achieve. I wanted to buy my dad a house. I did that. I wanted to have, a couple $1 million. Did that. Buy some Porsches. I have 4 of them. And I think the challenge for me is, I had in mind about a $5 million net worth. And I hit that when I was about 39, and I'm stuck. I can't see bigger than $5 million. And I'm not sure why. I can see it, but I really don't. And I think it's because I have everything I want, right? If I wanted to go buy a plane today, I could go buy a plane, right? But I don't want a plane. So, so why do I want to put, a $10 million number in my head? So, in terms of going forward, I have the same struggles as everyone, except that we're playing with different piles of chips.
So it sounds like your ceiling is just a little bit higher than the average person's ceiling, right? We all hit ceilings. Yep. So your ceiling happens to be a $5 million ceiling, which is not a bad ceiling, my friend. Then you probably look at somebody like Bill Gates. Maybe he's at a $200 million ceiling, right?
What, Bill Gates?
I mean, I don't know what's Bill Gates. He's out of billions. I'm sorry, he's in billions.
He's like 56 billion. Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. My numbers are way up. Absolutely. Right. So, my friend, and what questions? What should I've asked you that I didn't ask you?
I think one of the things, if you know Pat, I think I got on the passive income train a little bit late. Certainly I own houses, right? And that's great passive income. But I never really was deliberate about building other lines of passive income. Like Pat, if you've talked to Pat about this, and he's fanatical about it.
Machine.
Yeah, the guy's got 20-something, different lines. It's mailbox money. So, I think I should have focused on that mailbox money a lot earlier. And, I think I think it's this. I think one of the very important things that people should be thinking about, the compound effect. Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy wrote this book, The Compound Effect. And, if you look at compound interest or how compounding works, it just gets bigger the longer it stays in place. So I think instead I've done quite a bit of deals, all sorts of different kinds of deals. I've made money, I've lost money, but I wish I would have known about passive income earlier. And I wish I would have invested Instead of doing a deal and saying, listen, I want to make 50 grand off this deal, I should have taken that same money and said, I want to make $2,000 a month for the next 40 years.
What's the one thing that makes you successful?
I think it's just a drive. I think that, I've fallen down a ton, but I keep getting back up, man. Right? I recently, this a couple of years ago, but I did a deal, should not have gone bad. But I lost 450 grand. 450 grand. It was about 420 something, but call it 400 grand. It literally in weeks. And this is a deal that shouldn't. And that one, man, I was like, shoot, man. I could have had another house instead of, again, trying to do a deal. I would have, on that deal, that 450 grand would have kicked me out a couple hundred grand. And I should have just said, no, I don't need that couple hundred grand, right? I should have bought another house and gotten another stream of income. So I'm not sure. I think I got off track. What'd you ask me?
What makes you successful? I mean, why are you successful? Sounds like you're resilient, right? You don't give up.
Yeah, resilience. And I think why I told that story is what I struggled with is going to sleep and just going, that's over. Right? Today's a new day. Today's a new week. Today's a new month. That's over. And I think too many people, when they have a failure or a perceived failure, they live in the past. Oh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. That doesn't help you tomorrow. So you know what? Lose money, fail, whatever. Get up, dust yourself off, and go back at it again. Forget about that failure. Move forward. I'll tell you that I've had that mindset for forever, and it's worked well for me. But there's also a lot of things that is somewhat hampered me. In high school, in college, I never took pictures. I never took pictures of anything. I don't have any pictures from those times because I deliberately said, I don't ever want to think about the past. I want to think about the future. So I never documented what I was doing. And again, that's while mindset has benefited me in many ways. In a lot of ways, I now wish I would have taken pictures. I never even took pictures of my kids. My wife did, but because I didn't want to live in the past.
Gotcha. Awesome, my friend. Well, hey, what about I know you always ask for a book recommendation on your show. So what's your book recommendation? What's the book everybody should be picking up?
I'll give you 3. So Shoe Dog is the story of Nike and Phil Knight. I think everybody should get that.
Gotcha.
Commonly, when people get successful, what they start to turn to is biographies, right? What did that person do? Whether that's, wartime biographies, but a biography that I love, it's called Open by Andre Agassi. That's a great book to understand really how he did it, how he achieved what he achieved, and what he went through. I think people can learn a great deal about looking and learning and listening to other people's stories. And then a tactical book that I think everybody should read. But again, this is not for amateurs, or this is some advanced stuff. But The Ultimate Selling Machine by Chet Holmes. Fantastic book.
All great. Yeah, great books. I've heard of The Ultimate Selling Machine. I've heard of Shoe Dog. So Open, Shoe Dog, The Ultimate Selling Machine. So guys, davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a download on Audible. Free. Absolutely check it out if you want to check out any of those books. If they're on Audible. So Toby, hey man, appreciate your time. How do our listeners get in touch with you? Also, I know you're doing radio, so if anybody's interested in taking their business to the next level with radio, you're the guy to contact. Let our listeners know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, you know what? You can do it all from the site. Just go to superagentslive.com and you can check out the show there. And there's a Grow Your Business tab, and that outlines all the stuff how we can help you.
Yeah, what I love about podcasts is, again, somebody called me up and was complimenting me on my podcast. And then they said, you need to check out this other guy's podcast. And that was your podcast, Super Agents Live. So
awesome.
Great job, my friend. And final question, on our listeners' path to sales mastery, what is the one thing you want them to take from this interview today?
Just forge forward, man. I'm not a quote guy at all, but one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Alexander the Great, is fortune favors the bold. So go out, be bold, forge forward.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Got it.
Hey, Masters, you guys know how important health and nutrition is to me. I just want to talk to you a little bit about products I use called AdvoCare. I've been using these products for about 1.5 years now, mostly just for energy. They've got a really awesome drink. It's called Spark. If you want to check out anything, I would tell you, go check out the energy drink Spark. That's what I did for, like I said, almost 1.5 years without even trying any of their other products. And then this past January, a bunch of us, January 4th, decided we were going to do the 24-day challenge, which is a 10-day cleanse and then 14 days of just really healthy eating, vitamins, meal replacement, just awesome 24 days just to kind of get yourself on track and get into some right habits. So Richie Ryan did it with us. Guys, he lost Today's February 5th. I think he's at 24 pounds lost since January 4th. Melissa at our office lost 6 pounds. Min at our office lost 5 pounds. Guys, I mean, listen, it's amazing. Regardless, if your goal is losing weight, my goal wasn't losing weight. I did the challenge just so I could experience it. And, I lost a few pounds, but now I put some weight back on because I started using some of the supplements and the protein powder and all the other stuff. So now I've gained about 3 pounds of muscle and just feel awesome. My energy's through the roof. So whether you're looking for energy or you're looking for just wellness, I mean, they've got some amazing green products that I love taking before I go to bed. Or if you're looking for performance, athletic products, we've got the athletic performance products. And then just active, if you're an active adult, maybe getting a little older in the age and you want to just keep everything working the right way and functioning. Listen, Gary Keller said it best. If you don't take care of your body, where are you gonna live? And I just love that. So, hey, I just ask you to check out Advocate's products. I'm a distributor, so I'd love to help you, talk to you about your nutrition and health goals. You go to livelongersmarter.com, livelongersmarter.com.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.